but I think especially Caitlin Clark, and I'm a huge fan, and I never say that, but I think it's fun what she's doing. When it comes to viewership, man, I think a lot of people have a lot to learn about our league, but I think that's a really fun thing. And if you have really anything negative to say about all the viewership and everything that this rookie class is doing, I just think that you're not capitalizing on it, and you might be a little jealous. So for me, I'm all for it. I'm about it. I love all the
Beyond the appeal itself, another major concern comes from the volume of civil lawsuits reportedly filed against him. Legal analysts say that when numerous civil claims accumulate, they can create a second layer of pressure separate from criminal proceedings. Civil cases do not determine imprisonment, but they can still have serious consequences, including financial penalties, public testimony, and the release of evidence that might later interest prosecutors. Reports suggest that more than 100 such lawsuits have been initiated. Even if many of them never reach trial, the sheer number signals how extensive the legal battle could become. Each case requires time, legal resources, and strategic planning. Attorneys must review claims, gather documentation, and prepare responses, all while monitoring how developments in one lawsuit might affect another. Some observers believe that if even a single civil case were to uncover evidence suggesting criminal wrongdoing, it could potentially be referred to authorities for further review. That possibility is what makes civil litigation particularly daunting in high-profile situations. Instead of facing one courtroom challenge, a defendant may find themselves dealing with many fronts simultaneously. Former associates, including industry insider Gene Deal, have publicly speculated about how he might handle prolonged incarceration if legal troubles continue to mount. Such commentary remains opinion rather than fact, but it underscores how intense the pressure could become if multiple cases progress at once. Extended confinement combined with ongoing litigation can test even the most resilient individuals. Ultimately, the future remains uncertain. The appeal, the lawsuits, and any potential new developments all form pieces of a larger puzzle that has yet to be completed. Until courts issue final rulings and legal processes run their course, speculation will likely continue. What is clear, however, is that the situation is far from over, and its final chapter has yet to be written.
Hate Caitlin Clark, and do you hate Caitlin Clark? Come on, talk
dude.
to me.
Absolutely not. I think that she's a gem. I didn't know her, but All-Star Weekend, we kind of bantered back and forth a little bit. And she's lovely. She has a lot of pressure on her shoulders. And I think a lot of people always have a lot to say with people they don't even know or shoes they've never been in. And for me, I think she's handling the pressure very well. She's doing a lot of great things for women's basketball. And I'm a fan.
For Smith, the challenge didn't seem limited to performance alone. At times, the overall fit simply looked uneven, as if the puzzle pieces never quite locked into place. Team chemistry is one of the most difficult elements in sports to measure statistically, yet it often determines success more than any single metric. When cohesion slips, it tends to reveal itself everywhere, in defensive timing, in late-game communication, and even in subtle gestures between plays. Observers noticed stretches where that harmony appeared inconsistent. Those moments can arise for many reasons. Sometimes it's about role adjustments, sometimes it's about stylistic contrasts, and sometimes it's simply about timing. A roster featuring a high-usage playmaker requires every surrounding piece to synchronize with that rhythm. Spacing, decision-making speed, and off-ball movement all become magnified under that spotlight. When alignment isn't perfect, even small hesitations can disrupt flow. Indiana's leadership clearly evaluated more than box scores while assessing its roster. Front offices study film, analyze practice dynamics, review communication patterns, and consider long-term projections. Their decisions often hinge on factors fans never see publicly. In this case, the conclusion appeared to be that a strategic reset would better serve the franchise's trajectory. That kind of choice isn't necessarily a judgment of talent, it's often about compatibility within a specific system. Seen from that perspective, the move felt less like a reaction and more like a calculated adjustment. The organization seemed intent on refining its structure to ensure every element supports the same direction. When teams commit to that level of alignment, they usually do so because they believe a clear window of opportunity is opening. And when that belief takes hold internally, roster decisions tend to follow quickly.
It might not be from you, but like what is it feels it's not hate, but is it jealousy? Is it envy? Is it just like, what is it?
Yeah, I see both sides. I'm not an extremist in any way.
Yeah.
And so I like to see both sides of each party. I think when you have older people in the league, they work their tails off and they didn't get the recognition. They don't get paid millions of dollars before they even step on the court. You know what I mean? And for them, it's all about, okay, well, what are your stats? What are you doing for the actual game, like while you're playing?
Yeah.
And then
taken together, these developments paint a picture of a franchise entering a defining phase. The arrival of a vocal, competitive guard who openly supports the team's central star signals more than depth, it signals intention. Indiana seems determined to create an environment where its cornerstone player can thrive without distraction, supported by teammates who embrace rather than resist that role structure. That kind of alignment can accelerate a team's evolution faster than raw talent alone ever could. At the same time, the departures that accompanied this shift illustrate how seriously the organization is taking its long-term planning. Moving on from established contributors is never a casual choice. It usually means leadership believes a different combination of personalities and skills will better serve the future. Those decisions often look bold in the moment but can appear visionary later if results follow. Around the league, observers are watching closely to see how this new configuration develops. Analysts are curious whether the stylistic fit will translate into smoother offensive flow and more consistent defensive execution. Fans are eager to see whether the renewed chemistry will produce tangible results in the standings. Even rival teams are paying attention, because roster harmony can transform a promising lineup into a legitimate contender. What makes this situation especially compelling is the sense that Indiana isn't just reacting to circumstances, it's shaping them. The franchise appears to be steering its own narrative, choosing pieces that match its blueprint rather than waiting for chemistry to form on its own. That proactive approach often separates organizations that hover around potential from those that actually realize it. If the experiment works, it could mark the beginning of a new era defined by cohesion, clarity, and competitive edge. And if it does, this offseason won't be remembered as a period of transactions. It will be remembered as the moment the foundation was deliberately reset, the point when vision, roster, and identity finally aligned in the same direction.
Folks, we are free from Nalissa Smith. Nalissa Smith no longer on the Indiana Fever. Kelly Krauskopf came in and said,
Cunningham's reputation as a high-energy, vocal presence has followed her throughout her professional career. She communicates constantly on the floor, brings visible intensity to defensive possessions, and doesn't hesitate to back teammates during heated moments. That kind of personality can shape a team's identity, especially one still defining itself. Young rosters often benefit from players who set emotional tone as much as tactical execution. Her public praise for Clark over time also hints at stylistic compatibility. She has repeatedly spoken about respecting players who combine skill with relentless competitiveness, and observers see that same mentality in Clark's approach. When two athletes share that mindset, the potential for on-court chemistry increases because both value pace, effort, and decisiveness. Fans who study matchups closely often look for those psychological alignments as early indicators of successful partnerships. In contrast, the earlier dynamic with Smith sometimes appeared less synchronized. There were stretches where rotations seemed mistimed or possessions felt slightly disjointed. While such sequences can happen to any team during a long season, repeated instances tend to stand out. Supporters watching game after game began noticing those patterns and discussing them across forums and broadcasts. Perception doesn't always equal reality, but in professional sports perception still influences narrative. For Indiana's decision-makers, the key factor likely came down to direction. Franchises with a defined blueprint try to ensure every roster spot reinforces that identity. When they sense misalignment, they adjust, sometimes quietly, sometimes dramatically. The recent roster shift suggests the organization is committed to building a cohesive structure where roles, tempo, and communication all point the same way. That approach reflects a long-term mindset rather than a short-term gamble. Teams that consistently contend usually share one trait: their personnel fits their philosophy. Indiana's latest move appears designed to move them closer to that standard, shaping a roster where each addition strengthens the collective vision instead of complicating it.
Amazing for women's basketball. This is amazing for women's sports in general. You have so many people, so many new and fresh eyes on our sport that maybe they're a little uneducated and maybe they kind of stir the pot a little bit. And so I get that, but for that class.
For quite some time, Cunningham had made it known through interviews, comments, and public praise that she respected Clark's game and would welcome the opportunity to share the court with her. She consistently highlighted Clark's relentless work ethic, deep shooting range, and ability to elevate teammates, traits that players around the league recognize immediately when they watch film. In professional sports, admiration between competitors often stays quiet, but Cunningham never seemed interested in hiding it. She openly acknowledged what many observers already believed: when a generational-level talent emerges, smart teams construct their system around that player rather than forcing that player to adapt to everyone else. Now that vision has materialized into reality. Her arrival in Indiana didn't just excite fans because of her skill set, it generated buzz because it felt purposeful. Supporters quickly interpreted the move as part of a broader strategy rather than a standalone signing. It suggested planning, foresight, and a clear internal philosophy. That perception matters in professional sports because fan bases are quick to detect whether a franchise is improvising or executing a plan. In this case, the reaction leans strongly toward the latter. Adding even more intrigue to the narrative is the simultaneous roster shift that removed a player many believed might not have fit the long-term blueprint. Over the past season, there had been visible flashes of frustration during games, moments when spacing broke down, possession stalled, or body language hinted at misalignment. None of those moments alone prove anything, but when they accumulate across months, they create a pattern that organizations can't ignore. Basketball decisions at the professional level are rarely emotional, they're analytical, layered, and future-focused. By choosing to move forward with a different combination of personalities and skill sets, Indiana essentially sent a message without holding a press conference to spell it out. The message was about direction, identity, and cohesion. It suggested the franchise is prioritizing chemistry and stylistic compatibility as much as raw talent. Teams that succeed long-term often do exactly that, they build rosters where pieces complement rather than compete with one another. With Cunningham now part of the lineup, the atmosphere surrounding the team feels noticeably sharper and more unified. Observers describe the shift as subtle but meaningful, like a locker room that suddenly understands its shared mission more clearly. Whether that perception proves accurate over a full season remains to be seen, but one thing is undeniable: the move has already reshaped the conversation around Indiana's future. Instead of speculation about tension, the focus has shifted toward possibility. And in professional sports narratives, that kind of shift can be just as important as wins and losses.